Hi guys, so I am going to show you how to make cauliflower pizza crust tonight. I am on a cauliflower kick. If you haven't seen some of my other videos, I've done some cauliflower fritters, I do cauliflower polenta. I love to substitute for a lot of things, and so it was only natural to use it for cauliflower pizza crust. You can make this recipe kind of as easy or difficult as you want it. I made it a little more difficult. Excuse my puppy, he's barking. But I made my own cauliflower rice, which, you know, is a little bit labor intensive. That's all I had. But you can use frozen cauliflower rice. You can already, you can purchase the already made cauliflower rice from the grocery store. But again, I'll show you the steps to make your own if you want to do that. And if not, you can omit it and make it easy on your life. So stick around. I'm going to show you how I put it all together. Okay, so the cauliflower rice is done. I've taken it out, it's cooled, and then I took a cheesecloth and I squeezed all of the moisture out. So even if you're using frozen, you're gonna wanna do this, this step, because you do not want moisture in your cauliflower when you're trying to make your crust. So we're starting with this rice, and then what I'm gonna do is add some cheese. So I'm not doing any breadcrumbs or anything like that, clearly, because it's going to try to stay fairly carb-free. But I am going to use some cheese to try to help it bind together. So I'm going to throw in about 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. It gives it kind of a nutty flavor, and it definitely helps it stick. And then my version calls for goat cheese. So I love goat cheese. I've tried like all different things. I've tried mozzarella cheese, which you can definitely use that. You'd probably want to put about 3/4 cup of mozzarella and then a little less Parmesan. But I'm using goat cheese because I love goat cheese. Who doesn't? And it really makes it nice and crispy. So I'm going to use about 1/3 of a cup of fresh goat cheese. So you can just kind of wing it. It's not going to make it horrible. And then if you're not, I'm using eggs and cheese. If you're wanting to make it dairy-free and you're wanting to make it egg-free, there are many different ways. Like you can use chia eggs. You can use nutritional yeast. I know that that's like a good way. I might have put a little too much goat cheese, but you can never have too much. So you can always do it that way as well. And then I use 1 egg. Here, sorry. And that's gonna help this kind of mix a little bit. So there we go. My hands are all messy. And then we're gonna mash this together. So you really want those cheeses and the egg to bind together. So if you can see that, I mean, you're just gonna continue to mix this for about 2 to 3 minutes until you get this nice and creamy. And then we're gonna get to the next steps where we add in all of the nice herbs and spices. Okay, so I've mixed this for about 2 or 3 minutes. It's nice and creamy. I mean, all of the cheese is kind of melted in. And now I'm gonna add the dry ingredients. So you can really add whatever you want. I've kind of throughout the years, I mean, I've been making this since I lived in London. I don't know where I had it, but I learned about it and I was trying to cut out on carbs, and I've perfected it at this point. So I put a little bit of salt, a pinch of salt. I'm gonna put about 1/4 teaspoon, you don't want a lot, of garlic powder. Same thing with a little onion powder. I just want a tad of onion powder. I'm gonna do some cracked pepper. And I don't know if there's exact measurements with all of these, but I'm just telling you the spices that I'm using in here. I'm gonna use just a pinch of dried oregano. I only have ground, I don't have like just the dried. And then I'm using some fresh herbs. So I'm using about 1.5 tablespoons of fresh basil that I got from my garden. I'm using about a teaspoon of rosemary, and then I'm using about 2 tablespoons of fresh Italian parsley. I'm gonna mix that in, and that just, I mean, it really brings out those Italian flavors and makes the crust so much more flavorful than if you just left it plain. You can do whatever you want, as I said, but I love to throw in as many flavors as possible. So I have preheated my oven to 400, and I have put parchment paper that I sprayed down with some avocado oil. You can put olive oil, whatever you want, on the parchment paper so it doesn't burn. And then we're going to flatten this out, and we need to pre-cook it before we actually make our pizzas, which then we'll put back in the oven once we put our toppings on. So I'm gonna come back and show you how I've put this on the platter and before I put it in the oven. Okay, so I have taken my cauliflower dough and I am ready to put it in the oven. So I took, like I said, a cookie sheet, I lined it with parchment paper and sprayed a little oil on it, and then I've divided it into 2 different little pizzas. You can make one big pizza if you like, but we're gonna do our own separate pizzas and then do a taste test. So I put it on here, it's about 1/4 of an inch thick, and then we're gonna put it in the oven on 400 and bake it for about 20 to 25 minutes. We really want just like a nice golden crust on the top. If you feel like it's not quite there, then leave it in the oven for a little bit longer. So I'm gonna put it in, and then I will bring it out and I'll show you what it looks like once it's done. All right, so my honey's home and the pizza crust is done. Okay, so I ended up having to keep it in there a little longer than I intended. I know I first said 25 minutes, but it wasn't browning the way I wanted it to, so I raised the temperature to 425, and I actually flipped it after 25 minutes and cooked it for another 15. So, I mean, total almost 40 minutes that it was in there, and now it looks nice and crusty and brown like a pizza crust. And then we're going to now top this with our favorite toppings. I'm going to show you, and you guys can decide which one you like best. Okay, so we're both back. I told you, my honey's home. I made 2 pizzas, so I've got the 2, and he's got his on his side, and I've got mine. And we're gonna do different things, and then we're gonna have a little taste test. But
is it good, honey? Is it good, babe?
I'm excited. So we're gonna dress it, and then we'll zoom in and show you guys kind of what we did individually, so you can learn. But the main part of this was the cauliflower crust. So. What are you doing? What are you starting with?
I'm going traditional tomato sauce first. What are you doing?
Well, half of it, I'm going to do some rosemary, roasted garlic, olive oil, like as a base.
You didn't tell me you had that.
Yeah, I'm going fancy. And then I'm going to do, I've done this with the normal pizza.
He always does this, by the way.
I know, sorry. I'm going to do potatoes. Layered with, I'm gonna do the mozzarella first. And then some potatoes, and then I'll layer a little bit more of that garlicky rosemary.
Is that enough sauce, you think?
Oh, that's too much sauce. Honey, that's way too much sauce.
What do you mean? I like a lot of sauce.
Take it out.
I like it saucy.
It's gonna make it all soggy. You gotta get some of that off.
All right.
Can you help me scoot up?
No, I got this.
Okay. And just so you know, while we're doing all the fixings, I did raise the oven to 500 because we want to throw it in and just make it nice and crispy. But, all right.
How's that?
That's a little bit, that's better. That's better, yeah.
Good.
Minimal sauce. Minimal sauce is better. You don't want it to like make your crust soggy. We really worked really hard on this crust. So, okay, so I'm doing
Yes, we did. We worked so hard on this crust.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything, by the way. I watched.
Yeah.
What you got there?
All right, so I did a halfie. So this half is a little bit of rosemary, olive oil, roasted garlic, and salt on the bottom with some purple potatoes and mozzarella. This side, I did pesto, so green pesto, some fresh zucchini, squash, bell peppers, sun-dried little tomatoes, these little spring onions, with some truffle on top. A little olive oil, salt and pepper.
It's a lot going
mine's
on.
Fancy, I know. I went fancy. What did you do on yours?
I went for the Savage Special. I went tomato sauce, some sausage, mozzarella, onions, and then what I do, basil, and then Parmesan cheese on top of that, and topped it off with some truffles.
Yeah.
You know, truffles for a little pizzazz.
Well, I'm excited to eat both of these.
So am I.
Okay, so we are done with those pizzas. Look how amazing those look. They're gonna go into the oven. I turned the oven up to 500, and they're gonna go in, because they're gonna be nice and hot, for about 10 minutes. It's just gonna like quickly cook those vegetables and make it crispy on top. Take it out, it's ready to eat. Okay, so I just took them out of the oven, and I'm going to taste them. I'm gonna taste mine first. However, they look amazing. I cooked them for 10 minutes on 500. About 4 minutes into it, I did cut it back down to 425, but you just want it to get really crispy on top. And, oh my God. That's amazing. I mean, if I didn't make this, I would not know there was cauliflower in that.
Wait, hold on, I taste mine.
Well, hold on, I'm gonna taste the other one. So I've got the spring vegetables, all from our garden. I'm gonna taste this one now, and it's got some truffle.
Oh, that's right, because you did two, half and half.
Oh yeah, that's amazing too. Oh wait, can I taste yours? Because I want to.
Yeah, of
course. Or do you have to taste yours first? Okay, I'm gonna taste yours, and then you can taste all of ours too, and you can decide which one's the best. All right.
Who's gonna decide?
You can decide which one you like best. Oh, wow. That's amazing too. They're all amazing. Ah! All right. Well, I'm gonna let him taste, and then I really recommend that you try this recipe. It's pretty simple, cuts out the carbs, using vegetables, cauliflower being the star, and it's something easy that your kids will love that you can introduce to your menu.
All right, now I'm up. I get to taste this cauliflower pizza.
Are you tasting yours first?
Why not?
I'm just kidding.
Oh.
All right,
you don't have to.
How is it?
Oh my God. Holy balls.
It's pretty yummy, right?
Oh my God. This is ridiculous. All right, now I'm going over here for yours.
There's two sides to it. Cut a little piece of that.
Kind of like you.
Rosemary.
Two sides to you too.
The rosemary purple potato, mozzarella. I need to film that face.
Oh.
That's legit, right?
That one's better. Whoa. I have to